So what do I think were the absolute worst acting Oscar nominations of the 2000s? Hey guys, it's Brian. Welcome to the Awards Contender. So I've already given you my video counting down the top 10 best acting Oscar nominations of the 2000s. Now it's time for the worst. Now it's time to talk about those acting Oscar nominations that had us scratching our heads, saying like, really? We couldn't have nominated anyone else, any other performance? We had to go with that one? Come on, right? Most of the acting Oscar nominations for the 2000s I like or love, but yes, there were some bad ones, and I'm sorry to say I'm starting with number 10 Best Actress Cate Blanchett, Elizabeth the Golden Age.
I'd like to give your son my blessing.
I'd be honored.
So I've done an Oscar ranking video for Cate Blanchett. Most of her nominations are great. Most of them are fantastic, including her nomination for 2007 in Best Supporting Actress for I'm Not There, where she plays Bob Dylan. That's one of the most inspired Oscar nominations that year, I would say. But she was also nominated that same year in Best Actress for Elizabeth the Golden Age, which was the follow-up 9 years later to Elizabeth from 1998, which she is wonderful in. Like, that was a great Oscar nomination for Best Actress at the end of the 90s. She probably should have won over Gwyneth Paltrow for Shakespeare in Love. But did we need to nominate her for the sequel, for The Golden Age? No. There were better options that year, and it seemed like overkill in a way. She had been nominated the year before in Supporting Actress for Notes on a Scandal. Like, she's already getting the nomination for I'm Not There. We don't also have to put her in Lead Actress for not one of her best performances. Is anyone talking about her role in Elizabeth the Golden Age today? Not really. I mean, she has some effective moments here and there. There's that famous moment where she's screaming, like as the camera pushes in on her, and that was always the clip that they would use that entire award season. But I just don't think she's very memorable in that movie. She didn't need to get the Oscar nomination. Best Actress for 2007. We could have gone with one of two people, I think, easily. One would have been Amy Adams for Enchanted. That would have been a freaking great Oscar nomination. A comedic performance, musical, fantasy. She's so much fun in that. That's really the film that made her a star in a way. So that would have been awesome. Also, Helena Bonham Carter for Sweeney Todd. That film at the Oscars got into Best Actor for Johnny Depp. Why not Best Actress for Bonham Carter? Either one of those women getting into Best Actress at the Oscars for 2007, I think would have been better than Cate Blanchett for Elizabeth the Golden Age. I mean, just look at Blanchett after they play her clip. Like, she is so embarrassed. Like the look on her face, I will never forget. That expression of Blanchett at the Oscars is more memorable than anything in that movie. Number 9, Best Actor, Peter O'Toole, Venus.
Biblical advice.
Very good, gentlemen.
Excellent, my dear.
So this was a strange nomination that felt like it happened because Peter O'Toole had so many Oscar nominations going back decades, like back to Lawrence of Arabia and Beckett and The Lion in Winter, and had never won a competitive Oscar. And he gave this late stage performance in Venus that was, solid. It's fine. The movie was really underwhelming. He gave a decent performance in it. But did he deserve an Oscar nomination for Venus? I don't know. That one felt weird because there was this thinking, I remember that night, of like, well, it's probably going to go to Forrest Whitaker for The Last King of Scotland. He's basically swept the season, but Peter O'Toole is very old. He's on his 8th Oscar nomination without a win. Every single nomination was in the Best Actor category. This was the moment to finally give O'Toole a competitive Academy Award. And then Reese Witherspoon just said Forrest Whitaker's name, and that was that. And I do think to this day, O'Toole might have had a better chance at winning. He might have won if the performance was stronger, if the film was better. Because I saw Venus in the theater and it just had no staying power. There's nothing about that movie that sticks with you weeks and months and years later. It just felt like we need like one more person for the category. They couldn't nominate Leonardo DiCaprio twice, because he's already there for Blood Diamond. He couldn't also get in for The Departed because they have that rule. You can't get into the same category for two different movies in acting. So it was like, well, who do we fill in here? And Peter O'Toole turned out to be the guy. He was such a legend. And by that night, it felt weird watching him like in the audience and just nodding his head when he lost again. I don't think we needed to put the great Peter O'Toole through that again, at that stage of his life. And I don't think his performance in Venus, which has elements of comedy and drama and like certain things he's adept at and can do a good job at, it wasn't that remarkable of a movie. His performance is fine, but not really like Oscar worthy, I would say. I would have replaced Peter O'Toole that year with Clive Owen in Children of Men, a movie I just love with my full heart. It still surprises me to this day Children of Men did not have a better showing at the Oscars. It got into a few categories, but it's not in picture or director or actor for Clive Owen. Like, he's been nominated before in supporting actor at the Oscars for Closer. Why not in lead actor for his remarkable dramatic performance in Children of Men? That would have been awesome. Number 8, Best Supporting Actor, Alan Alda, The Aviator.
It isn't me, Howard. It's the United States government. Who the hell are you?
Now this one kind of similar, I would say, to O'Toole getting in for Venus. Alda getting in for The Aviator, it felt like a career nomination. It wasn't really based on him doing outstanding work in The Aviator. I think part of it was Alan Alda's career goes back decades, beloved figure in film and TV, and we get to 2004, 2005, and the Academy's like, he's never been nominated. We have never given Alan Alda an Oscar nomination, and The Aviator was one of the big heavy hitters that year, getting into picture and director and actor for DiCaprio. It was a movie everybody was watching and voting for in a bunch of categories above and below the line. And so you get to supporting actor and they need to fill in the category, and it's like Alan Alda gives one of the more memorable performances, I guess you could say, in the movie. He's got one or two effective courtroom moments, I remember. But like, did that performance deserve to get an Oscar nomination? I don't think so. There wasn't too much about that performance I found to be all that remarkable. It just happened to be for Alan Alda, the right film at the right time. If it had been a different year, if Best Supporting Actor had been way more stacked, then he probably wouldn't have made it. But for 2004, there was some wiggle room. And so the Academy decided to give Alda what is still to date his only Oscar nomination. And I wouldn't say it's like terrible, it's not like a terrible performance, terrible nomination. I'm happy Alan Alda has the one, it's fine. I just think there was a much better performance in 2004 that should have gotten into Best Supporting Actor. He got the Golden Globe nomination, there was that. But it didn't translate to Oscar. I think instead of Alan Alda for The Aviator, David Carradine for Kill Bill Volume 2 should have gotten the Oscar nomination. That would have been one of my favorite Oscar nominations of the decade. That would have been so freaking awesome. And instead we get this kind of safe and blah performance from Alda in The Aviator. He gets into the category instead. It's like, Academy, You could have done something really inspired, nominating David Carradine for Kill Bill Volume 2. He should have replaced Alan Alda for The Aviator. Number 7, Best Actor, Johnny Depp, Finding Neverland.
I lost my older brother David when I was just Peter's age. And it nearly destroyed my mother.
Alright, so Johnny Depp has 3 Oscar nominations to date. I love the other 2. His first nomination for Pirates of the Caribbean is a great one. I almost put it on my top 10 list in acting nominations. Like, it was like 12 in my list. I thought really hard about just launching that video a few days ago with number 10, Johnny Depp, Pirates of the Caribbean. There were just a few other performances I personally preferred. So yeah, that's a great nomination. You don't see that kind of performance recognized by the Academy very much, so that was cool. And then Sweeney Todd, he's great in that. I'm happy he has an Oscar nomination for a Tim Burton movie, right? That makes sense. But I've never really understood the Oscar nomination for Johnny Depp in Finding Neverland. That's a perfectly fine film. I think the best performances in it are by Kate Winslet. And then I would say Freddie Highmore, a very young Freddie Highmore in Finding Neverland, gives a pretty impressive performance. Like at the end when he's crying, he's so great in that moment. But what does Johnny Depp do in Finding Neverland that was Oscar worthy? That's my question. He doesn't bring the movie down. He's not bad. I don't think there's anything in that performance I think is particularly great or memorable. It felt to me like he was now in the club, you know? He had just gotten in the year before for Pirates of the Caribbean, which was this just huge box office hits. And he was in a bunch of things, like the next year he's in 2 or 3 other movies. So by the end of 2004, early 2005, Johnny Depp was having a moment, and the Academy was like, let's just nominate him again. What puts him on this list very quickly, I would say, is that there were 2 other performances in 2004 that should have gotten into Best Actor at the Oscars. Either one of them would have been miles better than Johnny Depp in Finding Neverland. Come on. Jim Carrey in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, one of my favorite actors, has never received an Oscar nomination. It should have happened for Eternal Sunshine. Kate Winslet got into Best Actress. Like, Carrey getting into actor for that movie, that would have aged so well. That would have been another fantastic acting Oscar nomination. But if Carrey wasn't going to make it, the person who should have taken the slot that went to Johnny Depp was, of course, Paul Giamatti for Sideways, which is one of those performances I feel like most people assume he got an Oscar nomination for. Like, the movie got into picture, director, it won adapted screenplay. You had Thomas Hayden Church and Virginia Madsen get into the supporting categories at the Oscars. Paul Giamatti, if I remember correctly, he won Best Actor at the Film Independent Spirit Awards. He was nominated all over the place that season for his incredible performance in Sideways. Like, how is Giamatti not a part of that Oscar 5 for Best Actor? That is just bizarre. That is crazy. It's like, Carrey, I kind of get, he wasn't really looked at as a big awards player for drama and things. I understand Carrey in a way, but Giamatti should have gotten in. Especially, I would say, over that pretty meh performance by Johnny Depp in Finding Neverland. He'd just been nominated the year before for Pirates of the Caribbean. He didn't need to get nominated 2 years in a row. Number 6, Best Actress, Juliette Binoche, Chocolat.
It's nice to see you. Would you like to come in for some chocolate?
So I just talked about this Oscar nomination in a recent video all about why Julia Roberts won the Oscar for Erin Brockovich. I talk in that video about how great 4 of those nominations are. Like, you have Ellen Burstyn for Requiem for a Dream. I think that's one of the great acting Oscar nominations of the 21st century. Like, of the last 25 years, like, that's one of the best. And then you also had Laura Linney in You Can Count on Me and Joan Allen for The Contender. All three of those nominations, those performances are fantastic. And then I also love, of course, Julia Roberts and Aaron Brockovich. I still think that's Julia Roberts' best performance in the movies. So what keeps this Best Actress Oscar category from being an all-timer? It's that fifth nomination, Juliette Binoche for Chocolat. I just don't think that was Oscar-worthy. I adore Juliette Binoche. I think her win in supporting actress for The English Patient is a good one. She is excellent in The English Patient, and she's been really, really good in so many movies throughout the decades. And she's fine in Chocolat. She's got charm, she's got wits, and it's not a totally banal character. Like she definitely infuses that movie with some life. Her scenes with Judi Dench are fun. And I guess it's nice that a more comedic performance gets into Best Actress that year, which is filled to the brim, I would say, with dramatic performances. Binoche is the one more lightweight film and performance, but I don't think there's anything really Oscar-worthy in what she's doing in that movie. It feels like she got caught up in the Harvey Weinstein Miramax machine. Like that film getting into picture, supporting actress, and actress. I wonder if a different company had been handling Chocolat in 2000, if Juliette Binoche would have pulled off that Best Actress nomination. I don't think she would have. I don't think that would have happened. And I do think there was a much better performance that should have gotten into this category over Binoche. That was Michelle Yeoh for Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. She got a BAFTA nomination for Best Actress. Her movie at the Oscars got into picture, got into director. Like that film, I think, should have gotten one acting Oscar nomination. That would have been well deserved. And Michelle Yeoh, who of course, more than 20 years later, would finally win her Best Actress Oscar for Everything Everywhere All at Once. I think it would have been really cool if she had had one previous Oscar nomination. It would have been for Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, as I talked about in her Elusive Oscar video. Like that was the other performance she gave where she had a shot, especially because the Academy responded really well to the movie. Like people were talking about Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon maybe winning Best Picture, Like that was in the conversation, I remember, because it's such an astounding film, just an amazing work of cinema. It's like 1,000 times better of a movie than Chocolat. So to have Chocolat get into picture, to get into actress, that hasn't aged very well. I think Michelle Yeoh getting into Best Actress instead for Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon would have been so much better. Number 5, Best Supporting Actress, Maggie Gyllenhaal, Crazy Hearts.
You always dress for dinner?
Okay, so now we're getting to the acting Oscar nominations of the 2000s. I just don't care for very much. I have nothing against Maggie Gyllenhaal. She's a very talented actress and writer and director. I love her nomination in writing for The Lost Daughter. That's great. But in terms of acting Oscar nominations of that decade, one of the least remarkable, I would say, is her nomination for Crazy Hearts. That, in every way to me, was just a coattail nomination because Jeff Bridges was getting in everywhere and was winning everywhere. And so, there was a little bit of room, I'd say, in supporting actress. Usually, year to year, we get one surprise in supporting actor or supporting actress. That was the big surprise for 2009 because Maggie Gyllenhaal really didn't show up anywhere for that movie. It was all Jeff Bridges all the way. And if you had any doubt that Jeff Bridges wasn't going to win the Oscar for Best Actor that year, I think Gyllenhaal slipping into supporting actress the way she did, it proved to all of us Bridges was taking it. I don't know. I feel like, Bridges winning the Oscar for Crazy Heart, I've always had some problems with. He's good in that film. I don't think it's worthy of an Oscar victory. That was kind of a career win. And then Maggie Gyllenhaal in Crazy Hearts, she's fine, I guess, but an Oscar nomination for that? There's nothing that she does in that movie where I'm oh my God, Oscar nomination. She plays the role as best she can. The screenplay, I guess, lets her down in that there's just not a lot of notes for her to play. There's not that interesting of a character arc. And so she's not doing bad work. I just don't think it's at the level of an Oscar nomination. I think something that also helped Gyllenhaal at the end of that decade was that she had been doing really good work in films like Secretary, Sherry Baby, The Dark Knight. Like, people were noticing that Maggie Gyllenhaal was a very talented actress. And so there was probably that thinking of, well, let's give her a nomination, you know, like she's really good. But was she worthy for Crazy Heart? Not so much. I think the much better Oscar nomination in supporting actress that year would have been Julianne Moore for A Single Man. That is the definition of a great supporting performance in a movie that the Academy should recognize. She's got one extended scene with Colin Firth where she is just chewing the scenery. She is so delightful in that long scene with Firth. And then we see her on the phone a few times before that moment. I don't know how much of that movie she's in, maybe 15 minutes, 20 at most, I would say. But she eats up every moment of screen time in A Single Man and in a career that's had some really wonderful Oscar nominations. I've always felt the one that she missed, that she should have gotten, was for A Single Man, especially over Maggie Gyllenhaal in Crazy Heart. Oh yeah. Number 4, Best Supporting Actor, Stanley Tucci, The Lovely Bones.
I mean, I probably went out and ran a few errands or something like that, but I mean, I should have been here all day.
No. I don't like this performance, this movie, this nomination that Stanley Tucci, still to this day, only has this one Oscar nomination is weird to me. I don't really understand what happened there because it's not like the Academy embraced The Lovely Bones. This was the only nomination that movie got. It came out at the end of 2009. You know, audiences for the most part stayed away. Critics didn't really take to it. It's like because of the prestige of Peter Jackson behind the camera, it's almost like the Academy said, well, this movie kind of failed, but we should give it something. And I guess you could argue one of the better aspects of The Lovely Bones is the Stanley Tucci performance. He is creepy, I'll give him that. He's doing what the screenplay is like requiring him to do. He's got a different look, you know, he's got the mustache, and it's kind of a transformation. He's not like sleepwalking through that movie. I think it's kind of a one-note performance. I don't think it's anything that great. And I don't think it should have gotten an Oscar nomination, especially for a film that weak and forgettable, and especially because Stanley Tucci gave a much better performance in another movie that same year, Julie and Julia, of course, directed by Nora Ephron, starring Meryl Streep and Amy Adams. Stanley Tucci in Julie and Julia is so wonderful and warm. His chemistry with Streep is just off the charts in that film. He's so supportive of her. He's like her biggest champion all throughout that narrative. And Streep got into Best Actress that year for Julie and Julia. Why couldn't Tucci be her coattail nomination for that film in Supporting Actor? Why did they have to nominate him for The Lovely Bones? I don't get it. If we're going to give Gyllenhaal a coattail nomination for Crazy Hearts, let's also have the same thing for Tucci. I think that would have been the better call. That would have been an Oscar nomination that would have aged so much better than his nomination for The Lovely Bones. I have never liked that. I don't think it should have happened. Stanley Tucci's Oscar nomination should be for Julie and Julia. Number 3, Best Supporting Actress, Frances McDormand, North Country.
Well, we're doing the exact thing they want us to do. Screw that. We can take any crap they dish out, can't we?
So now we arrive at one of the most forgettable acting Oscar nominations of the 21st century. 3-time Best Actress Oscar winner, Frances McDormand, who's so great in so many films, movies she's nominated for, movies she's not nominated for. I love some of her other nominations, like in the 80s for Mississippi Burning, for Almost Famous, 2000. I love her performance in Almost Famous. That's a really good Oscar nomination. But then we get to 2005, and the Academy is really working hard to fill in the supporting actress category. I mean, I don't really love that nomination for Catherine Keener in Capote. That almost made this list. You know, I think Sandra Bullock does a better job the next year in Infamous. Keener getting into Best Supporting Actress that year for Capote was definitely a coattail nomination. Philip Seymour Hoffman was winning everything that year in Best Actor, so Keener came along for the ride. But it's not the worst performance, it's not the most forgettable Oscar nomination that year in Supporting Actress. Keener can stay. You know, Keener's fine. It's Frances McDormand in North Country that has had me scratching my head for 20 years. Like, I'm just like, okay, like, what does she do in that movie that's Oscar worthy? She got in because of two things: her name recognition with Academy members. You know, she sometimes has the Meryl Streep effect. We're trying to fill in the category. It's like, well, did McDormand have a dramatic role in something this year? North Country, an Oscar bait movie, if there ever was one. So why not nominate McDormand? The other reason she got in was that Charlize Theron, the lead of that movie, got into Best Actress for North Country. You know, and that was another performance. I was like, really? That felt like a nomination for Theron just because she had won 2 years prior for Monster, one of the greatest acting Oscar wins ever. So it's like, oh, okay, she's trying again, like she's giving another big dramatic performance in an end of the year movie. Let's nominate Theron for North Country. I don't know, like that Best Actress nomination, take it or leave it, I don't have too many thoughts on it. But the one that should go, the one that doesn't need to be there, is the Supporting Actress nomination for that film for McDormand. You know, in a career of so many Oscar nominations and wins, that is easily the weakest one, and we could take it out and replace it with something that would have been so much better. An actress I have adored for decades who's never received an Oscar nomination. I think this would have been the right film at the right time. She got a Golden Globe nomination in lead actress, so maybe there was category confusion, I don't know. But Maria Bello for A History of Violence. Maria Bello in that movie is sensational. She is so good in that. And William Hurt, surprised on Oscar nominations morning, getting into supporting actor for what's really just a few minutes of screen time at the end. Maria Bello got close to an Oscar nomination 2 years prior for The Cooler, and I do think her one nomination at the Oscars should have happened for A History of Violence. That is an extraordinary film performance from Maria Bello, who she hasn't had a lot of opportunities, I would say, in the last 10 years, you know, to be back in the awards conversation. Her Oscar nomination should have happened for A History of Violence. She should be in Best Supporting Actress that year instead of Frances McDormand for North Country. Number 2, Best Supporting Actor, Jon Voight, Ali.
I'm surprised because unless you, or until you, fight Frazier,
Cosell,
there are people
are you
who
losing your hearing along with your hair?
All right, these top 2 choices, my top 2 in this video, are all-time turds. All-time turkeys of acting Oscar nominations. These are the 2 of the 2000s that 100% shouldn't be there. Going through the lists the other day, you know, there were performances I thought about. I was like, yeah, that one's okay, that one's not great. But this one, by Jon Voight in Ali, I mean, talk about a coattail nomination. If there was anyone in that movie who should have been Oscar nominated, it of course was Will Smith in the title role, who did get in. And that's all fine and good, and that nomination for Will Smith can stay. But Jon Voight, with that prosthetic nose, and he's like an announcer, And he doesn't do anything that interesting in the movie. It's just because of his name value with the Academy. You know, he had won an Oscar in the 70s for Coming Home. He had been nominated here and there throughout the decades. And because he's playing a real person in Ali and has that kind of grotesque, I would say, physical transformation, he gets the Oscar nomination, and it's like, no. No, 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 no. That is the definition of a lazy acting Oscar nomination. Just looking around at the big end of the year Oscar baity movies and saying, well, Voight doesn't really look like himself. Let's nominate him in supporting actor. And I have never liked that nomination. It shouldn't be there. What especially pisses me off about the Jon Voight nomination for Ali is that the Academy could have given one of our great actors an Oscar nomination. This man, still to this day, has never been nominated by the Academy, and he should have in 2001, Steve Buscemi for Ghost World. He got in at the Golden Globes. Ghost World got in at the Oscars in screenplay, so they watched it, they considered it for other categories. Like Steve Buscemi getting into supporting actor for Ghost World at the Oscars, that would have been inspired. That would have been such a great nomination, so much better than Jon Voight in Ali. Give me an effing break. And finally, that takes me to the number one choice. What do I think is the worst acting Oscar nomination of the 2000s? This was a very easy call to make. It's from the same year, 2001. My number one pick is Best Actor, Sean Penn, I Am Sam.
I like these, Daddy. Yeah, because she knows what she'd like. That's why she likes these. Yeah, black goes with everything. But how much are these?
So what is there to say? What can I say about Sean Penn getting into the Oscars for I Am Sam? Well, he's not sleepwalking through that movie. He made choices, and he's playing a certain kind of character where, you know, he showed up on set every day with a certain style of performance. And I guess there could be people who argue that's the only way to play it in that film. That's what the screenplay, the director, called for in I Am Sam. So, like, I guess you could say it's like a good performance, like in terms of like what he was required to do for that role. But that doesn't mean I have to like it. You know, like that doesn't mean he should have been Oscar nominated for it. I don't know how you feel about it, but I think Sean Penn in I Am Sam is ultra cringe. Like so cringy, one moment after the next. I don't find that to be an effective performance. I don't think that movie works at all. I saw it the one time, and one time was all I needed, right? Like, I never want to have to watch that movie again. I mean, talk about Oscar baity films and performances, you know? It's just like that movie screamed Oscar bait. Like Sean Penn had 2 Oscar nominations behind him for Dead Man Walking, Sweet and Low Down. Sean Penn was one of those actors we all knew he was going to win one day. It was just a matter of time. And along the way, the Academy's like, well, he's not going to win for I Am Sam, but let's give him another nomination. He deserves it. And it's like, no, like, no, he didn't deserve it. He didn't need that nomination. He's not there that night. He didn't give a shit. Like, I Am Sam only got that one nomination. It didn't get in anywhere else. And so it just seems so unnecessary, especially in a year, 2001, which has some wonderful performances that would have made such better Best Actor Oscar nominees. My top 2 choices that should have replaced Sean Penn for I Am Sam are Ewan McGregor for Moulin Rouge, another great actor who's never been Oscar nominated. Nicole Kidman got in that year in Best Actress. The movie got into Best Picture. Why not McGregor in Best Actor? That would have aged really well. Or Guy Pearce for Memento, right? Like, that's a great performance too, Memento didn't get into picture and director. It should have, I would say, at the Oscars. It only got into film editing and original screenplay, but I think Guy Pearce in Memento gives a phenomenal performance that would have been an inspired Oscar nomination for the ages, and instead we went with Sean Penn for I Am Sam. Come on, that should not have happened. I hate that Best Actor Oscar nomination for Sean Penn in I Am Sam. Thanks so much for watching and subscribing, and let me know in the comments below, what do you think of my list of the worst acting Oscar nominations of the 2000s? Is there anyone I left out? I'll see you next time at the Awards Contender.